Hey guys, Alex Liggins here, finishing up the final exam for Family 400. Can you believe it? It is absolutely finished, it is done, and I really wanted to speak to you guys about the final exam that I did on really understanding the different dynamics of why marriage is a good thing. Um, in my presentation, what I'm talking about is the objectives that are very similar to the Christian worldview, but I am explaining the contrast of the Christian worldview as well as the worldview that we currently live in from a society perspective. So, my objectives are to find the dynamics of parenthood, how biological parents impact children, influence abstinence until marriage, and then God's view and perspective on sexual desires. And so, in this presentation, what I really want to elaborate on is how important it is for us to have sex within marriage. Marriage is the key to wholeness. It talks, my research that I found is that fathers are more likely to stay in their children's life when they're married. From a financial perspective, the family itself does better, and it also impacts the child. They're more successful from a development perspective, also from a perspective. And what I mean by that is they're able to see what it looks like to have a mother and a father in the household. When we think about sexual activity outside of marriage, there are so many things that we're susceptible to, i.e., STDs, teen pregnancy, a lack of resources from an educational and a financial perspective. All of these things impact our life without us even knowing it. And what I really like about the study is it definitely exposes the foothold that the devil has us in. And so the worldview views sex as a transactional experience, but nevertheless, the first encounter that an individual has when engaging in sexual activity is actually a pivotal moment in that individual's life that actually looks at the future within the person. And what I mean by that is when you engage in sexual activity for the first time, there's so many things that happens to you biologically that you're not aware of. And unfortunately, we don't think about it. I can remember being young and not really having those conversations. We talk about the birds and the bees. What is that? I don't think I've ever had that conversation. But I think the reason why is because sexual activity and that lifestyle is done privately and parents don't want to talk about it. So this research that I've done is really talking about the different dynamics of the relationship in a worldview. So love based of on feelings. So love that the world thinks is more on how you feel, how that person makes you feel. Well, we learn from the Christian worldview that it's actually God that we get our love from, and he uses I use the word agape love, and that's just unconditional. Well, in the worldview, it seems like it's more transactional and or it's more just how we feel at that certain point in time, and we can jump relationships, we can jump to different people. There's nothing that's holding us accountable, if you will. From a sexual perspective, it's definitely a sense of transactional as well. If it's not good, then we don't want to really engage in it. Or if it's something that's there for the meantime, then it's there for the meantime. And this is exactly why we see so much hurt, we see so much pain, and we see the STDs on the horizon from a relational perspective. A lot of us are now seeing cohabitation as something that's normal now. It's normalized. Back in the day, it was if you were living with someone or if you had a child out of a wedlock, it was scrutinized. And now we're more inclusive, making it more comfortable for others to engage in sexual activity and have children outside of marriage, to live with one another and not be married. All of these things are ways that the enemy tricks us to thinking that we will live a lasting life of fulfillment, when in fact that's not the case. from a parent perspective, uh, there's a sense that when children are outside or when children are fatherless, they are more prone to being sexually taken advantage of. They are more prone to being abused, perhaps sex trafficked. All of these different things really take hold to how God views and what He wants us to and how He wants us to live. My thesis, and I do apologize for not discussing this in the beginning, is that sexual activity, it can be viewed by the world's perspective, and if the world's perspective actually took heart in what God's view is in the Christian perspective, that we would live a better life and a better way of being fulfilled. And so I am uh, proposing that engaging in sexual activity is not only fruitful, fulfillment, you can find fulfillment in, but it's God's design for us to live in a way that He has us to live so we can be the best that we can be as a Christian and build the kingdom of Jesus Christ. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy.